It's time for another quick take, ladies and gentlemen. Men's quarterfinal review and semifinal preview. We're talking about Wimbledon 2017, of course, and today was the day. Men's quarterfinals day, and sort of a disappointing day. I was expecting a better day of tennis today, but it is what it is. Back inside my New York studio, I did very much so enjoy my trip to Florida. Thank you so much for asking. But let's get into the tennis. Like I said, sort of some disappointing matches. I was expecting better, but we're still going to talk about it. Let's start off. Let's get our bearings. I'm going to show you guys the bracket that I showed you before the tournament started in my preview video. Let's go back to that bracket and kind of see where we are. The final four is set, so to speak. We'll start in Murray's quarter. Andy Murray did make the quarterfinals. There he met Sam Querrey. Querrey did upset Joe Willie Tsonga, as I predicted. He met Kevin Anderson in the next round, not Stan Wawrinka. Querrey came through that match, so it was Murray and Querrey on center court, and Querrey pulling off the shocker. He books himself a spot in the semifinals. He is now the first American male to upset the defending champion at Wimbledon 2 years in a row. What an accomplishment. Congrats to Sam. Moving down to Nadal's quarter. Nadal, of course, upset by Gilles Muller on Monday. So it was Muller and Cilic today, and Cilic victorious in that one. The Cinderella story comes to an end for Gilles Muller. Cilic in the semifinals. Moving on down to Roger Federer's quarter. So it was Federer in the quarters. I did predict this matchup correctly. Raonic and Federer. Federer getting through quite easily there. And finally, in Djokovic's quarter, another quarterfinal matchup that I predicted correctly, but I did not pick this match correctly because Berdych ended up advancing. Djokovic having to retire early in the second set. So once again, unfortunate that we didn't really get to see that match play out. I'm going to get into these matches in more detail later. But before I do that, let me just scroll all the way back up. Because, you know, if I'm going to take all this heat in the comments section, you know, I just got to point out that my ranking, and it hasn't updated for the semifinals yet. I'll probably go down a little bit. But as of now, I'm ranked, this bracket is ranked 72 out of 6,255 entries in Tennis Channel Racket Bracket. That's the top 1%. I cannot, I'm sorry, you know, if you're going to kill me in the comments, then I'm going to have to brag a little bit if I'm ranked 72 out of 6,255. I got to do it. I'm sorry. Do you blame me? All right, let's get into these matches. Let's start with Andy Murray and Sam Querrey. They were first up on center court today. As I said, Sam Querrey shocking the hometown favorite. 3-6, 6-4, 6-7, 6-1, 6-1 in the last two sets in favor of Sam Querrey. Normally, when a big dog gets upset, I spend a lot of time talking about what went wrong for them, and I don't talk about what the underdog did so well. I want to kind of change that here. Let's talk about Sam Querrey. You can always rely on the massive serve and the punishing topspin forehand. But what's been different in this tournament for Sam Querrey? It's been the backhand. The reason why he hasn't, you know, the more skilled players have been able to have a lot of success against Sam in extended baseline rallies is because the backhand is the weakness. It's the weaker side by far. And when your backhand is generally as weak as Sam Querrey's is, players will use it as an escape valve defensively. And what that means is if I'm on the defensive and I'm playing Sam Querrey, all I got to do is try to get it to that backhand, and I'll either force an error or I'll get back to neutral in the rally. That has not been the case so far in Wimbledon. Sam Querrey's done such a good job of pulling the backhand both directions. He's been able to go down the line with a lot of consistency, and he's been able to rip that thing cross court, you know, without making a lot of errors. And it has not been the weak stroke, the stroke that falls apart. It hasn't been that stroke for him so far in Wimbledon, and that's been, you know, that's been the big difference for him. He's been able to really strike that backhand with a lot of confidence. Forehand's always there. Serve is always there. The backhand isn't always there, but it's been there so far. Andy Murray was dealing with a hip injury in this match, but, you know, I don't know when it really got to him. And he's been okay so far, or until then, Andy Murray hasn't been playing so well, but it seems like he's been moving all right. In this match, to me at least, it looked like he was moving okay until really the 5th set. Now, what was never going for him in this match was the serve. Could that have been because of his hip? Yes, quite possibly. But Murray did not do enough on either his first serve or his second serve in this match. But I'd say the first serve stood out more than the second serve as a big problem for Andy Murray in this match. His average serve speed, overall serve speed, was 101 miles per hour. He was laying in his first serve normally around the 110 mile per hour range. Against Sam Querrey on a grass court, that is not going to cut it. Maybe he gets away with that on a clay court, less likely on a hard court, definitely not on a grass court. You need to use your first serve, and you need to take charge in a rally using your first serve in Wimbledon. You need to be aggressive with your first serve on a grass court. Most players are able to make that adjustment. I don't know what it was for Andy Murray. He struggled with percentage early, and then it seems like after that, he just stopped going for it. Maybe it was the hip that was preventing him from hitting his first serve with any sort of velocity whatsoever. But I feel Murray has not been playing at a high enough level throughout this tournament. I think, in contrast to Nadal, who ran into his nightmare matchup, I'd say if Murray ran into the right guy, he could have been upset much earlier in this tournament. He went through Dustin Brown. He struggled in a match about Fabio Fognini, but got through that one in 4 sets, and he got through Benoit Paire in the round of 16. Those are all guys who are offensive players who lack the ability to remain steady. Murray, on the other hand, his steadiness is probably his greatest attribute. So if you are unsteady versus Andy Murray, he's just going to defend, use his legs, remain steady, and he's going to beat you 10 out of 10 times. If he ran into someone who could have been more steady from the baseline, forcing Andy Murray to force the issue more, I feel like Andy Murray could have ran into some trouble easier. It took him until the quarterfinals to run into a formidable opponent like Sam Querrey, and I'd be lying if I told you that I am overly surprised by this result. Sam Querrey to the semifinal. Let's move along now to Marin Cilic and Gilles Muller. A 3-6, 7-6, 7-5, 5-7, 6-1 5th set victory for Marin Cilic. Someone asked me yesterday, or I guess it was 2 days ago after the Nadal match, after I made the analysis video on the Nadal match, someone asked me, were you surprised at 34 years of age that Gilles Muller was able to physically outlast Nadal? But I hesitate to use the word outlast because he didn't outlast Nadal, but he was able to, he did not physically deteriorate against Nadal in that marathon 5th set. He was able to stay on par physically with what he had done in the 4 sets prior. This was all about the tennis. This did not really come down to, one guy outlasting the other. But credit to Gilles Muller, that was a long, grueling match, especially in the 5th set. And at 34 years of age, he was able to stay right in it. Physically, no problem. My answer to the question, was I surprised? Yes and no. So, first of all, it's really the play style that Gilles Muller implements. The serve volleying, it can get exhausting, serve volleying, but he keeps the points so short. On the return, he doesn't play much defense. So I'd say Nadal did 70% of the running in that match was done by Rafa Nadal. As a result, you look at what Gilles Muller has to do, point in and point out, and as long as the match goes, he doesn't really ask much of himself physically. So I wasn't too surprised on that front. But at 34 years of age, I'll say this. It's impressive what all the older players are able to do now on tour. We're certainly seeing a shift with modern science and modern dieting. the way players are able to take care of their bodies nowadays, we're certainly seeing older players able to preserve their body and do more later on in their careers. So I'd say Muller's definitely one of the poster boys for this trend, ranking extremely high right now. I don't know how much higher it will be. I know he was seeded 16th, but that's not his ranking. I think he's 26th in the world going into Wimbledon. I suspect that ranking will jump after this impressive quarterfinal run. So surprised but not surprised. In this match, I'll have to say, Nadal fans were probably feeling a little bit better about themselves, seeing that Muller was able to give Cilic a very competitive match, at least through 4 sets. Muller's the real deal on grass. What can you say? Like I said, I don't think Nadal really played poorly in that match. I really think it was just a rough matchup for him, and Muller was formidable. In the 5th set, the 34-year-old Muller, it was the third 5th set of the tournament. So he went 5 sets with Nadal. He went 5 sets before then against Lucas Rosol. He went 5 sets in that match. So this was his third 5th setter, and I think he really emptied the tank in that 4th set. He was down 2 sets to 1, but he was able to get the break at 6-5, serve it out for a 7-5 4th set victory, and by then, Gilles Muller, straight out of Luxembourg, finally ran out of gas and lost that 5th set 6-1. So it'll be Cilic and Querrey in the semifinals. I'll talk more in depth about that match a little later. Let's move on to Federer. Federer defeating Milos Raonic 6-4, 6-2, 7-6. Federer with a straight set win against Dimitrov, now a straight set, straightforward win against Milos Raonic. He's really hitting his stride at the right time. I think that he's still playing. He's making a tad more errors than we saw him on the hard courts. But that just might be a product of upping his aggressive play on the grass courts. There is absolutely nothing to be concerned about for Federer right now. It is absolute cruise control. And until Federer gets a real test, I don't know much to say. Let's move on. Novak Djokovic, Tomas Berdych, another one where it's going to be hard to talk about because Novak Djokovic loses a tightly contested first set in a tiebreak. No real surprise there. Goes down a break early in the second and then retires with an elbow injury. He had the trainer work on his elbow in the match. He had the trainer work on his shoulder in the match. You know, we've seen him kind of flex it at certain points in the first week of this tournament. Andre Agassi did an interview for ESPN, and he said, I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. Clearly it was. Once again, I'd say the telltale sign was the serve. Just like I'd say for Murray, that was the most evident effect of this injury. It was the Djokovic serve. Did not get a lot of MPH on that serve. And he had to retire. I hesitate to question his mental toughness. I know that, based on what we've seen in 2017, based on how we've seen him quit this year in some particular matches, I know some people will be raising those questions. I'll say maybe it's fair to raise the question, but I don't think so. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Djokovic, we'll see what happens. He might take the hard court season off as well. I don't know. Let's see what happens. So Tomas Berdych, 7-6, 2-0 before Djokovic retires. He'll play Federer in the Wimbledon semifinal. Let's talk about the semifinal matchups, starting with Sam Querrey versus Marin Cilic. Wimbledon is a place where big servers do really, really well. Round of 16. These are all players who made the round of 16. Big servers, Sam Querrey, Kevin Anderson, Gilles Muller, Milos Raonic. I don't think you'll see those four players all in the round of 16 of a hard court tournament or even more so a clay court tournament. Grass is great for the big servers, and that list excludes guys like Federer who can serve and can play. Grigor Dimitrov, well, not so much him. He's not serving big enough, Grigor. And you know who's getting on him for it is Brad Gilbert, getting on Grigor Dimitrov for not serving big enough. But he can serve at 130, he just doesn't. I digress. Okay, here's the thing with Marin Cilic. This guy's another animal. This guy is a completely different animal. Marin Cilic can serve with Sam Querrey. But what Marin Cilic can do that none of those other big servers can really do as well is attack the second serve with a massive amount of aggression. Marin Cilic has an aggressive return of the second serve, unlike Kevin Anderson, Gilles Muller, Milos Raonic, Sam Querrey, his opponent. No one can do it quite like Cilic. That's one thing that sets them apart. The other thing that sets them apart, it's kind of like what set Juan Martín del Potro apart from those guys, is Cilic hits huge on both wings. Where I talked about Querrey's backhand being an escape valve for his opponents, but I can't say the same thing isn't true about Kevin Anderson and Gilles Muller and Milos Raonic. None of those guys can punish you off the backhand wing like Marin Cilic. So I look at this matchup and I see a guy in Marin Cilic who can serve with Sam Querrey. But Sam Querrey will not punish Marin Cilic's second serve like Cilic will punish Sam Querrey's second serve. In the baseline rallies, Sam Querrey, although he's hitting his backhand better, will not be able to punish his backhand with the consistency that Marin Cilic is able to punish his backhand. The only hope for Sam Querrey in this match is if he is able to stay more poised than Marin Cilic, maybe, steal a break in a set. So win one set via getting that break, then maybe win 2 tie breaks. That's how Sam Querrey can win this match. I don't see it. I see Marin Cilic in 4 sets. Sam Querrey wins a set in a tie break where there are no breaks to serve. But that's all I'm seeing. Marin Cilic can serve with Querrey, but has too many other skills that Sam Querrey does not possess. The other semifinal matchup, Roger Federer and Tomas Berdych. Federer has dominated this head-to-head, winning the last 7 against Tomas Berdych, but Berdych does have a win over Roger Federer on grass, something that not many players on the ATP World Tour can even say. However, Federer will outclass Tomas Berdych just like he outclassed Grigor Dimitrov and Milos Raonic. I don't see Tomas Berdych in as much, as a big step up in competition compared to those guys. The book on Tomas Berdych is this. You try to stretch him out to his forehand, you make him change direction a lot, so you hit it behind him. Now, that's easier said than done for 98% of the guys on tour. But for Roger Federer, it's not easier said than done, it's just done. Tomas Berdych does not serve big enough to force tie breaks against Roger Federer. Tomas Berdych does not defend well enough to break Roger Federer's serve. This is going to be Roger Federer in 3 sets. Federer and Cilic in the final, I believe that would be a competitive final, but we will cross that bridge when the time comes. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.